Most people think real estate investing is something you do after you already have money. They watch from the sidelines, convinced it's a game for the wealthy, for people with connections, for people who somehow already know what they're doing. But the truth is, every single real estate investor you admire started at level 1, confused, uncertain, and with more questions than answers. The difference between those who build real wealth through property and those who never get started comes down to one thing: understanding the path. So today, we're going to walk that path together, from absolute beginner to seasoned investor. And by the end, you'll know exactly where you are and exactly what your next move should be. Level 1 is where everyone begins, and it's called the awareness stage. At this point, you've heard that real estate builds wealth. Maybe a coworker mentioned they own a rental property. Maybe you stumbled across a video or a podcast. You know the concept exists, but you have no idea how it actually works. You don't know how people find deals, how they finance them, what makes a property a good investment, or how landlords actually make money. And that's completely fine. Level 1 isn't a problem. It's a starting point. The goal here is simple: education without overwhelm. You need to understand the basic vocabulary and the core ways real estate generates returns. There are 4 fundamental ways a rental property makes you money. The first is cash flow, which is the monthly income left over after collecting rent and paying all expenses, including mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and property management. The second is appreciation, meaning the property increases in value over time, building equity you can access later. The third is loan paydown, where your tenant's rent is essentially paying down your mortgage every month, quietly increasing your ownership stake. The fourth is tax advantages, because real estate investors benefit from depreciation deductions and other write-offs that can dramatically reduce taxable income. Once you understand these 4 pillars, you're no longer just someone who has heard of real estate investing. You're someone who understands why it works. That's the shift that happens at level 1, and it matters more than any specific tactic. Level 2 is where things start getting real, and it's called the education to action stage. You've done some reading, maybe listened to a lot of podcasts, watched hours of YouTube content, and now you're feeling the gap between knowledge and action. This is one of the most dangerous levels because it's where analysis paralysis lives. People stay here for years. They keep learning, keep preparing, keep waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect deal, and that moment never arrives. The antidote to level 2 paralysis is specificity. You need to stop learning about real estate in general and start learning about one strategy in one market. For most first-time investors, the best entry point is a single-family home or a small multifamily property, a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, in a market where the numbers can actually work. You also need to understand the 2 most important numbers in real estate analysis: the cap rate and cash-on-cash return. The cap rate tells you the income potential of a property independent of financing. You divide the net operating income by the purchase price. The cash-on-cash return tells you how much cash income you're earning relative to the cash you actually invested. A property might look expensive on paper, but deliver excellent cash-on-cash returns when financed smartly. At level 2, you should also be having real conversations with a lender to understand what you can qualify for, with a local real estate agent who works with investors, and ideally with someone who already owns rental properties in your target area. The fastest way through level 2 is to combine education with action-oriented conversations. Level 3 is the acquisition stage, and this is where most people experience their biggest emotional swings. Buying your first investment property is genuinely scary. Even people who feel prepared find themselves second-guessing everything the moment a real deal is in front of them. You'll wonder if you're overpaying. You'll worry about bad tenants. You'll stress about what happens if the roof needs replacing in year 2. All of these fears are valid, but they're also the exact fears every successful real estate investor pushed through on their way to building a portfolio. The key mindset shift at level 3 is understanding that you're not looking for the perfect property. You're looking for a property that meets your investment criteria. Before you make a single offer, you need to define those criteria clearly. What's the minimum cash flow you need to make the deal worth it? What condition is acceptable? What neighborhoods are you targeting? What's your maximum purchase price, given your available capital? When you have criteria, you make decisions based on logic instead of emotion. The financing piece is also critical at this level. Most first-time investors use conventional financing with a 20 to 25% down payment for investment properties. Others use house hacking, buying a small multifamily property, living in one unit, and renting out the others, which allows you to use owner-occupied financing with as little as 3.5% down through an FHA loan. House hacking is one of the most powerful strategies available to first-time investors because it dramatically lowers the barrier to entry while letting you learn the business while living inside it. Whatever path you choose, run the numbers honestly. Don't inflate projected rents or minimize expected expenses to make a deal look better than it is. Conservative underwriting now protects you from painful surprises later. Level 4 is the management and optimization stage, and it begins the moment you close on your first property. This is where the real education happens, not from books or podcasts, but from experience. You'll learn things about property management, tenant communication, maintenance coordination, and local regulations that no course could have taught you. Some of it will be easy, some of it will be exhausting. But every challenge you navigate at level 4 is building the operational knowledge that separates serious investors from one-property owners. One of the most important decisions you'll make at this level is whether to self-manage or hire a property manager. Self-management keeps more cash flow in your pocket. Property managers typically charge 8 to 12% of monthly rent, but it costs you time and energy. For your first property, especially if you house hacked or bought locally, self-managing can be incredibly valuable because you'll understand every aspect of the business intimately. As your portfolio grows, professional management often becomes not just convenient, but strategically necessary. At level 4, you should also be focusing on building your team. A great local real estate attorney, a CPA who specializes in real estate, a reliable contractor for repairs and maintenance, and a property management company you trust if you go that route. These relationships are assets that compound in value, just like your properties. You should also be tracking your numbers monthly. Know your actual cash flow versus projected. Know your occupancy rate. Know your repair expenses and how they're trending. The investors who build serious wealth are the ones who treat their properties like a business, because that's exactly what they are. Level 5 is where the game fundamentally changes, and it's called the portfolio and leverage stage. By this point, you own at least 1 or 2 properties. You understand the operational side of the business, and you're starting to think about scale. The question is no longer whether real estate works. You've seen it work firsthand. The question now becomes, how fast do you want to grow and what strategy will get you there? At level 5, sophisticated investors start using tools like the BRRR method: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, which allows you to recycle capital by pulling equity out of a renovated property through a cash-out refinance and using those funds as the down payment on the next acquisition. Done correctly, this strategy can allow investors to grow a portfolio without continuously needing fresh capital. Others at level 5 begin exploring commercial real estate, short-term rentals, syndications, or real estate funds, depending on their goals and risk tolerance. The mindset shift at level 5 is moving from operator to investor. You're no longer just someone who owns a rental property. You're someone who allocates capital strategically into real estate as an asset class. You think about market cycles, interest rate environments, tax optimization strategies, and long-term portfolio construction. You're building something that will outlast you, something that can generate passive income, fund retirement, or create generational wealth. Here's what most people miss about this entire journey. The levels aren't just about money or knowledge. They're about identity. Every time you level up in real estate, you become someone different. You go from person who's heard of real estate to person who understands it, to person who acts on it, to person who operates it, to person who scales it. That identity shift is what makes the wealth permanent. Because if you lose the money, but keep the knowledge and the identity, you can always rebuild. Real estate has made more ordinary people wealthy than almost any other vehicle in human history. Not because it's easy, but because it rewards people who are patient, who learn from experience, and who keep showing up. You don't need to be at level 5 to start. You just need to be honest about where you are right now and commit to taking the next step. That's how the journey begins.